welcome to the Popcorn Junkies. If you haven't, do subscribe. If you like honest and thorough movie reviews, trailer reactions, streaming reviews, streaming reactions, all that kind of stuff. Movie chat, Weekly Rushes is coming back. Go and check out our Golden Globes analysis. A couple of movie reviews have already landed this year, Nosferatu and We Live in Time. This is an overhang, this film, really. This was released towards the end of 2024, and I'm going to have to be honest. It didn't feel like it was a film for me, this one. This is the new musical biopic, of which I am not a fan. It's my least favourite musical. Least favourite genre. You've got to drag me kicking and screaming into the cinema to see it. Now that said, I thoroughly enjoyed Wicked. That wasn't a biopic, but a musical, no, a musical biopic. Oh God, that's real kind of head crunchy stuff. I can think of one in recent years that I did enjoy, and that was Rocket Man, based on Elton John's life. And there's a kind of parallel there. Let me give you that as a clue, because the headline here is, I was massively undone. It was like I was boulder googly. I was completely thrown on my head. I was bedazzled. I was befuddled. I was muddled, mizzled, and bedaddled. I don't know. A lot of shit went on when I went to see this. So this is, Better Man. This is the biopic of Robbie Williams' as life. Former singer with Take That, very successful solo artist, become a sort of personality in and of his own right. The cheeky chappy member of Take That, the one that really, if we're all honest, we all kind of thought, yeah, really like you. All the others are a bit squeaky clean. Let's take all the elements together. You got musical, oh, not my cup of tea. Biopic, oh, makes my toes curl, just my one toe curl. Bring them together in holy unity. Oh God, never been a massive Take That fan. I have actually seen Robbie Williams perform live years ago. It was V99 or V2000 or V2001. Anyway, he was performing live. We were filming actually on the stage to the side of him. An astonishing performance. But the other part of this whole kind of curious puzzle of seeing it, not seeing it, going to see it, not going to see it, were two other things. It's a musical, but Robbie Williams in the musical biopic is played by a CGI monkey, a chimp. And yeah, we reacted to the trailer. Yes, it felt Planet of the Apesy. It felt at times a little bit Gollum, and I wasn't entirely convinced at the trailer stage, and that's just being honest. I was just like, it's not ticking any of my boxes. I like Robbie. He's a good chap. I like a few of his tunes, but I don't know if I want to go and see the film. So bear that in mind. That was where I was at, and I think the kids felt the same. And Nadia really wants to see this too. All of that said, I think the reason, as I just said, I was drawn to Robbie Williams is his personal story arc is that of recovery, addiction, low self-esteem, struggling with his mental health, probably ADHD in there. I sense he's a bit of an ADHDer, perhaps manic episodes, bipolar, massive substance abuse, massive alcohol abuse, massive kind of codependency in relationships, and at the same time, an inability to hold a relationship down. So, a little bit promiscuous and all that kind of stuff. And so consequently, I've always had a soft spot for him. Nadia's worked with his wife. They just sound like an absolutely lovely couple, and he sounds like a fucking great guy. He's from Stoke, for fuck's sake. My entire family comes from Stoke. The Adderleys come from Stoke, so he's a Stokey boy. So that's cool. This is also directed by Michael Gracey. Now, Michael Gracey was the director of The Greatest Showman, and I had a curious experience with that film. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to go. I just thought it's not for me. I thought it was going to be toe-curlingly, and I don't know if you remember, way back when it came out, and I found myself convinced. I liked it. But even that wasn't enough to make me want to go and see this. So anyway, I crawled into the cinema, packed cinema in central London, and the film starts, and it uses the kind of motif of Robbie Williams' voice threaded throughout. It's the internal monologue telling his story in a first person. Lots of swearing, lots of fuck offs, lots of fuck you, oh fucking hell. Really, I liked all that. Kind of didn't observe any of the kind of rules and regulations of politeness of other movies. you felt quite quickly, and this is really important in a musical biopic, because my problem with musical biopics is, in order to use the music, they have to have got the agreement of the estate, get the agreement of the estate or the family. They have to agree to a very varnished version of the person's life. And so really, we're not going to get how much honesty we're going to get, how much of the real story we're going to get, how much of the kind of down, the rock bottoms, and are we going to get any of that shit? And that's why I liked Rocketman, because you did get some of that shit in Rocketman. I mean, you don't want just that, because this is a piece of entertainment too, isn't it? You want people to go to the cinema and be like roused, not depressed. And so consequently, Elton John, a well-known, sober, 35 years, is it? He's been sober, hit his rock bottoms. Part of the recovery process of getting sober is being fearlessly honest and enacting a sort of strident a sort of analysis of your defects of character. Another part of it is making amends and all this sort of stuff. It's taking responsibility for the shit you've done, the shit you've imparted, the shit you created for yourself, but the shit you created for those around you who love you. And in that spirit, Rocketman came the closest to being a really honest portrait, because he couldn't have made, Elton John couldn't have signed off on a film that basically didn't tell the truth, because his whole recovery and sobriety is about being truthful. And I think this film, I realised quite quickly, benefits from the same recovery sobriety thread or thought, which is, this is going to be an honest portrait. Now, I wasn't sold in the trailer on the whole kind of monkey face thing. And I think the reason or the rationale for the monkey is, I mean, there are many sort of things one can run with here. The monkey on the back, depression, a performing monkey, and sort of like, and they're kind of playful and they're stupid and they're gurney and they're kind of not to be taken too seriously, really. It was all going to work or not work in that first scene. They're playing football in the back streets of Stoke, and there is a young monkey, young chimp and what have you. And I have to say, I can't believe this. I was completely convinced. I bought into it, and that was partly helped by the fact that the CGI or the, whatever the kind of whatever they were doing, there was obviously an actor under there, Gollum style, onto which they kind of then put the monkey features. They were so expressive. They were so detailed. You can sometimes get that AI tech where someone's like Luke Skywalker when he was recreated for Rogue One. You were just like, yeah, it's Luke, but it's not Luke, because there's a soullessness behind the eyes. This monkey, the Robbie Williams monkey, has soul. He's got soul behind the eyes, man. And I bought into it from the get-go. Now, this film clocks in at 2 hours, 20 minutes or thereabouts, 2 hours, 10 minutes. It's a long film, 2.25 hours. From the minute that scene happened with the football in the back streets of Stoke, you then step through his story, Robbie Williams' story. He goes for the auditions. Wonderful moment in the voiceover when he goes to one of the auditions to become a member of Take That, where he meets Nigel Martin Smith. I don't know all these characters, but he became this was the manager of Take That. Really neat bit of voice commentary here, saying for legal reasons I can't really say what he's like, apart from he's a massive cunt. I love the way in which, even in the kind of telling of the story and the narration, this is a film that's just not afraid to break the rules and be rude and break all the conventions. This isn't a kind of nice, varnished portrait. So as I say, you move through the various chapters of his life. You meet Gary Barlow, who's this kind of incredibly clean cut. I can only imagine they managed to get clearance from the rest of the band to kind of talk about them. You can tell that he has great affection for Gary Barlow, but his portrayal of him as he walks in, Gary Barlow's very clean cut. He's a child maverick pianist. He's already earning a fortune. He's the writer of the music. So of course, as Take That success emerges, none of the rest of the band get any of the money. Only Gary Barlow gets, they get some of it, but Gary Barlow gets most of the money. All the while, Nigel, their manager, played brilliantly by Damon Herriman. I mean, I have to say, it's an absolutely, he's fantastic. He gives it his all. He's kind of horrible, he's foul, but also he's their way in. He's their access into fame. I mean, the whole film is given, just bear with me. That's in tribute to you, Robbie. I saw you on the red carpet the other day at the Golden Globe saying it only got 4 double espressos in you and they were already fading and you needed a few more. That's my new gear now. This film had an extra sort of poignancy, impact, I thought, and kind of edge in this post Liam Payne landscape where we've all been encouraged to think, crikey, boy bands, oh, they're just rich, One Direction, take that, they all just get loads of money. They don't just get loads of money. It's not as simple as all that. What the trimmings of fame, the trappings of fame, this goes to great lengths to just show the relentlessness of going on tour, the way in which Take That went to all of the gay clubs first. Brilliantly owned in the voiceover. Robbie manages, in the narration, he manages to flag up the controversy of his sexuality, as if it's a controversy, and then manages to confirm that he's had a few dalliances, which way, both ways, always, and then says, I'm actually more pissed off about the idea that maybe I wasn't very good at it. He manages to kind of neuter some of the kind of great big sort of news stories that have been around in the past. I didn't realise at all that he ended up having, or nearly having, a child with Nicole Appleton from the All Saints. So I wasn't expecting this film to have a sort of strangely nostalgic retreat into the 90s, was it? 80s, 90s, 2000s. There's Nicole Appleton. They get their number one. And number one has kind of evaded Robbie. Robbie decides to leave the band. He's too much of a performing monkey. He's made to feel, and I thought this film did a really good job of portraying his sense of not being good enough. And I thought he did a really good job of getting around the idea that, unfortunately, most people have. Oh, you're in Take That. Oh, you're Robbie Williams. Oh, what have you got to worry about? What's the problem? You bought into, and you really signed up to, his frustration and his lack of self-esteem around the idea that Gary Barlow was the skillful one, the talented one. There were moments where you saw the origin stories, if you like, of some tunes and songs, but none of it had the eggy fucking awfulness, the rancid awfulness of a film like Bohemian Rhapsody, where they'd all stand around and go, this is the part that I like, and this is the bit where we go, and then we go a bit, This film did, weirdly, certainly in a couple of songs like Angels, around, and that was, the song Angels was given an added strength and poignancy and intimacy when you realise that this pivoted around his relationship with his nan, who was brilliantly played by Alison Steadman in the film. Steve Pemberton plays his father, and I think the song was Feel, actually. I think the song was Feel. I didn't realise that song was about his sort of, if you like, troubled, stressful relationship with his dad, and his dad, brilliantly played by Steve Pemberton. What an incredible performance. The League of Gentlemen, Steve Pemberton, who plays his dad, and he's a kind of deluded, in a way, kind of bar singer, crooning. He's singing in nightclubs, he's singing in working men's clubs. He's a good singer, but he's certainly not hit the kind of, the high life. And there's a really intimate and poignant scene where they're singing together as Frank Sinatra's on the telly. And you feel that this film, in a way, venerates the idea of Robbie Williams' dad. But also, this film isn't afraid at all to kind of really examine and explore the way in which Robbie Williams' dad was so fucking selfish and self-serving, leaves the family, goes off to London, goes off to kind of pursue his dreams, then only gets interested in Robbie Williams when Robbie Williams is Robbie Williams. Some great moments where the grown-up Robbie Williams says, why weren't you interested in Robert Williams? And, wonderfully intimate portrait of his relationship with his nan. His mum was less well drawn, but maybe that was just what the relationship was. His mum was a constant. His mum was there. Really interesting moments, like when he goes back to his home in Stoke and the press are outside and he's kind of closing the windows, and those moments that you often think to yourself, God, I wonder what it's like for a family that's hurtles into global fame within seconds, and and now has to deal with the world's press and all that kind of stuff. But when we get into the really kind of sticky territory of addiction, he talks about not just his addiction to drink and his addiction to drugs. There's lots of cocaine that's taken. There's his addiction to food. There's an incredibly powerful scene when he's at the sort of, he manages to finally write a single, write a song, gets to number one. It's becoming the thing that he wanted to become. He wants to play Nebworth. He wants to do what the Gallaghers have done with Oasis. He wants to achieve what Nicole Appleton has achieved with the All Saints, with their number one. And obviously all the, he feels Gary Barlow's been the sort of engine room of most of the kind of success of Take That and all that kind of stuff. This film moves into the nastiness of addiction. I thought this did an even better job than, say, Rocket Man, which kind of still kept it in a sort of candied, kind of quite upbeat, kind of hallucinogenic. This was hallucinogenic, but this was dark. This was an incredibly dark film. And then, you know, quite literally, the younger monkeys of Robbie Williams's past keep appearing to him like visions in the crowds. He sees them in places. They're saying all the evil shit. You know, that kind of image I've always used of mental health, where you've got the angel on one shoulder, then you've got the devil on the other, and it's just the devils that are talking, and they're taking you down, and they're wanting you to fail. And your own, you know, Nadia's wonderful line of, you know, I don't need trolls. The worst troll is in my head. And in this film, you get a real sense that Robbie Williams' sternest critics are earlier iterations of himself. He's the one, you know, he's been rejected by his dad. His nan starts to get Alzheimer's and he becomes more isolated. He starts to lose his friends. And there's this one incredibly powerful scene where one of his friends comes around to see him, and he's in this jacket, which is a vacuum suction jacket. It may as well be a packet, where he's essentially kind of squeezing either air or doing so. It's like he's being squeezed, vacuum packed into a tighter outfit. And he says this, he has this row with his friend, and he screams, what's wrong with you? Look, I've got everything. I've achieved everything I've ever wanted to. And you're looking at him thinking, not really. You look fucking barking mad, mate, with a fucking suction pack coat on, trying to make you fit into something so that you don't feel whatever you don't feel going on stage. And, you know, there was one particular scene where he literally leaps off stage. It's like a proper primate Planet of the Apes wrestling with himself. There's a kind of descent into hell as he leaps off the stage and does battle with every version of himself. I mean, it sounds ludicrous, but it works really well. I mean, some people will not be able to escape the ask that this film makes of you to kind of accept this CGI chimp as Robbie. But I have to say, if you just let down your guard a little bit at the front of the film and just go, all right, I'm going to give you a chance. Within 10 minutes, I'd forgotten, and not forgotten because otherwise, what's the point of him staying a monkey? Because it was incredibly effective. The intimacy and the depth of performance is not lost. And I was really surprised by how deep the performances were of the various actors who played Robbie as he got older and the various kind of chimp, if you like, faces. It kept the depth, it kept the authenticity. There was a charm, there was an impish, cheeky charm to him. There were many other sweet, tender moments in his moment with Nicole Appleton when, they could have had a baby, and it suggested that she was forced into an abortion by her management team because it didn't play with All Saints' kind of success story at that point. Then, of course, you've got the kind of the Gallagher, Liam Gallagher or Noel Gallagher marrying Nicole Appleton. You're thinking, oh my God, how this is like everything is rubbing his nose on it. And yet, the weird thing about this film is not one part of it, to quote a famous adage from AA, is none of it is poor me, poor me. It's not a sob story. This is not a sob story. He kind of manages to avoid this being sort of self-indulgent or feeling sorry for himself. And it's helped by the fact, even right down to the very end of the film, I think you've got to give thumbs up to a film that ends with this refrain, which is something, I might have got it wrong, something along the lines of, go fuck yourselves. Because it's a bit punk. He was clearly the biggest personality in the band. He's a fabulously raw, honest depiction or authentic portrayal in himself of the highs, lows, contradictions, fears, anxieties, perversions, weirdnesses of addiction. This is what the guy is. This is what his life has been. And you know what this film reminded me of? It speaks to something that I know Nadia said, and it's always kind of made me laugh when she said it. I find addicts quite interesting. I like addicts. They're kind of, they are entertaining. He is a great entertainer. Let me entertain you. This film gave depth and meaning even to the lyrics of his songs. And I didn't come into this film for a minute expecting there to be a much deeper layer or levels or subtext to the lyrics of many of his songs. Yet when you see his relationship with his dad, when he loses his nan, when you see his relationship with his mum, his loss of, the relationship with Nicole Appleton and the child and the baby and the life they could have had together, it's like, oh my God, wow. And then the Let Me Entertain You being the performing monkey that bites back and shows that he can actually achieve everything everyone else has said, oh, you can't achieve. Incredibly emotional final scene between him and Steve Pemberton, his father. It was really neat. It was really, and for me, it really spoke to, I cried twice in the film. I cried with the departure of his dad, it really resonated for me, that lack of a father and that sort of connection, and then sort of getting close to his nan. I really related to his relationship with his nan. That was really meaningful. And I really cried at the end when him and his father have some sort of, spoiler alert, but there's some sort of almost ability of kind of pulling together or acknowledging and seeing each other for the first time. There are scenes where he even makes amends to people in his life. This is a recovery fucking film. I came straight into this film from an AA meeting. And it was like, wow, I came out of an AA meeting, which had served its purpose. It was really meaningful, quite emotional. And then I came into this film and it was like the most fucking glorious, mad, batshit fucking crazy, in your face and up your ass fucking share, which is when someone sits at the front of the group and shares their story. This is an enormous share of an incredibly volatile rock bottom. And when you see the likes of Liam Payne, when you look at the likes of Amy Winehouse, you think, wow, well done, Robbie, for dodging the bullet in a literal sense. So what would I score this? I was absolutely staggered and surprised. Really was. I would give this 85 out of 100.